right, everyone, it's 9 o'clock, and we'll go ahead and call the meeting to order. Zendaya, have we complied with the Freedom of Information Act?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, we have.
Alrighty, we'll move on to roll call. Committee members, please unmute yourself and reply with present or here. Zendaya, will you please call roll?
Yes, sir. Mr. Arnold?
Here.
Mr. Brown?
Here.
Mr. Fluker?
Here.
Ms. Martin?
Here.
Mr. Thomas?
Here.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All right, thank you, Zendaya. Zendaya, does staff have changes to the agenda for today?
No, sir. Mr. Chairman, staff does not have any changes to the agenda today.
All right, and seeing that, may I have a motion to approve the agenda?
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve the agenda.
And I move to second the agenda.
All righty, great. Committee members, if you had any, if you have any changes, please state them when called upon by Zendaya. Otherwise, unmute yourself and vote yes or no to approve the agenda, and then mute yourself back. Zendaya, could you please do a roll call vote?
Mr. Arnold?
I have no changes. I vote yes to approve.
Mr. Brown?
No changes and approve.
Mr. Fluker?
Approved as printed.
Ms. Martin?
No changes and approve.
Mr. Thomas?
No changes and approved.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. That motion will carry 5-0.
All right, thank you, Zendaya. And now on to new business. I'd like to take a minute, obviously with everything being a little bit more new, to introduce Renee Phillips. And we're going to go ahead and ask the public to hold questions to the end of the presentation, but I'd like to turn it over to Renee, and she's going to go through the 2021 application. When she is complete, we will take questions from the Blue Jeans and Facebook groups. Potential applicants using Blue Jeans, you're reminded to please use the chat or raise hand feature, and we will read and respond to the questions as they come in. Keep in mind that town staff will unmute you at your turn, and as a reminder, citizen comments regarding general committee business will be taken up on the agenda as item number 7, so please hold all comments until then. With that, Renee, please take over.
Mr. Chairman, may we go and do the approval of minutes and then do the workshop item?
Oh, yes. Did I miss that? Okay. Sorry about that.
That's okay.
Yep. Sorry about that, guys. In terms of the approval of the minutes, are there any discussion or changes that need to be made to the meeting minutes as presented? If none, I would ask for a motion to approve the meeting minutes from the July 9th ATAX meeting.
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve the minutes from the July 9th meeting.
And I second the motion just made by Mr. Fluker.
Great. Committee members, if you have any changes to the minutes, please state them when called upon with Zendaya. Otherwise, please unmute yourself and vote yes, and then go ahead and mute yourself back. Zendaya, would you please have a roll call vote?
Yes, sir. Mr. Arnold?
Yes.
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. Fluker?
Yes.
Ms. Martin?
Yes.
Mr. Thomas?
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. That motion will carry 5-0, and now I will have Renee go into the application.
Thank you, Renee. Thank you, Zendaya.
You're welcome.
Good morning. I just want to say this is our first time doing this kind of workshop setting, so please bear with us if we have any technical difficulties. We do have an army of people here to help, but you never know with technology. Just wanted to touch base on the application. As many of you are aware, it is on the home page. Because of the COVID stuff, it's down a little lower than I normally keep it. But you will find a link to the application on the home page. As you get ready to start this year, I'm sure everyone also has probably forgotten their passwords, as we haven't used them in a year. Please, on any of the pages down at the bottom, you will find my email address, a link to that. I know normally I pass them out during the workshop. Just email me and I'll be happy to forward you your credentials to log back on for your organization. The application has not changed this year, so most of you will be comfortable with it, but I'm going to log on as and I've already created mine for this year during my testing. So as I said, you will see everything basically the same. There's not really any changes to the application this year. We ask that you save at the bottom of every page, just as a careful test. You always see that at the bottom. As we've talked to, you have the different pages. I have had the question, can you have multiple people in the application at the same time? You can. I just ask that you make sure you save on a regular basis so you're kind of not overriding each other. I know normally different people would be on different pages. I'm trying to go through here. Saving of documents, uploading your documents. If you have any questions, or any issues uploading them, just same thing, email me or you can call. I'll be happy to assist you uploading the documents or adding them on. We do have limits on some of them. For example, you'll see this question has a 250 word limit. That is not a perfect science in the HTML world. It actually is kind of characters too back there. So sometimes if you have bullets or some kind of special formatting, that may count against you. If you have any questions regarding you think you are within your limit and you're having formatting issues, please contact me. We do have, for those of you who have done the application in the past, we do run into the issue sometimes when you cut and paste directly from Microsoft Word. Microsoft likes to hide a lot of text in the background that none of us see. So we ask that you try to put it in Notepad or WordPad, something like that, to strip out Microsoft's formatting and then do the formatting within the actual box here. So test. So instead of copying your bullets there, do it within this box. That will help you. That is often an issue when you're finding you're within your word limit and it's cutting off. Like I said, Microsoft likes to hide a lot of stuff in the back. So we do run into that issue quite a bit. On the question about state tourism and doing your percentages, it will have to add up to 100. And you will see as you type down at the bottom, it will update to the 100%. At any time, you can preview your application by going to the preview page. Clicking at the link up top, it will give you a PDF of what it looks like at that point, which you can download, share with anybody in your organization. You will also see that all your financials or anything you've uploaded here as well. This is a test application, but you will see your financials and everything carried over from last year as well for all these applications. And really that's all I have, since we really didn't have any changes to the application this year. And if anybody needs assistance on anything or questions on uploading, please do not hesitate to call me, email me. And I do realize that a lot of you do this outside normal hours, and during this application period, I do monitor my email, so I will try to get to you on evenings and weekends as well to help assist you through your process. And like I said, on the bottom of every single page is a link to my email and my phone number if anybody needs me for that. So at that point, that is all I have. If any of the committee has any questions, or we can start taking questions from the public.
Thank you. At this time, we'll go ahead and open up the discussion to the committee if there's any. We'll conduct a roll call and call upon, just unmute yourself. And if you have any questions for Renee or any questions in general, that's great. And then otherwise, we'll move into comments by citizens.
Mr. Chairman, one thing that I did get a question in a conversation with an applicant. They wanted to know if they did not hold their event this in 2020, if they were not able to hold their event in 2020, how were they going to account for tourism numbers? And we're just going to ask them that they use the tourism numbers from 2019, from the last application that they applied for. And just because this year is a different year, some people are not able to hold events. They're still trying to. So if they have any questions, I would just ask that they give me a call and then we go from there.
I would agree with that, and I think that would probably be a great kind of standard to let the group and applicants know is if they were not able to hold their event, use the most recent data that they did have access to, because we will still want to try and rely on the data when we're going through the funding process. And I'd like to open that up to the rest of the committee. I would assume that everyone else in the committee would be in agreement with that.
Mr. Chairman, I would agree with that, but I think I'd like to see them show on their application that their 2020 event was canceled because of the COVID or otherwise. That way it would give us an idea as to why they're using the 2019 numbers.
And that
Agreed.
is something that they're able to explain in the executive summary portion of the application. That's something that they can use and explain in that section, just where they are, where they were, where they expect to go. And then that gives you a picture as far as what they've done for the last year.
Okay.
In Zendaya, and I would open this up to the group. I would just like to, if we could make that kind of the standard. You and us in the town know from a staff level how much information we get from the applicants. If we could kind of make it a standard, if they didn't have an event, if they could put that would be the spot we'd like to look at it and know is right there in the executive summary. So it could be consistent across the board with all the applicants when you are getting those questions. That would just make it a little easier for us as we're going through all that information.
Sure.
Mr. Chairman, I'd just like to add the comment that even if the applicants did have their event in 2020, I believe that 2020 is a hard year to really measure due to COVID-19. So I would request that we also see the 2019 statistics and data as well to go along with 2020. If they did have their event, they may see a rise this year due to it, like we saw at the resort or in other places across the island. But I think the measuring stick should really be 2019, so we have consistency across all applicants.
Great point, Mr. Arnold.
Mr. Chairman, I do have a question. The question is, how much of the application and summary should focus on effects of COVID-19 versus what was accomplished during the past fiscal year? What are your thoughts on that?
I would say it's really going to have to be half and half. I mean, as Stephen was just saying, I think that, we always want to understand what the impact of COVID has meant to their event or to them as an organization. But in the same sense, all of this, the goal of the committee is to find ways to drive, tourism. So I think that using the information they have from their previous years still as data. I don't think it should be the only thing that they're focusing on. I still think that they're going to have a pretty standardized application, and then also share that information on how it directly impacted their event or their information this year. I would like the committee's thoughts on that, though.
I concur with you, Mr. Chairman.
I concur as well.
I concur as well. I think, again, being consistent in all applicants will be important so we can see the 2019, 2020 comparisons in terms of that goes. So I think if the executive summary is the best place to put that, let's make it really, really clear on how they describe, those specifics.
I concur.
Great.
And also, Mr. Chairman, I see that there are some potential applicants on Blue Jeans. There is a chat feature on there as well. So if you do have any questions, feel free to go ahead and ask them there. There also is a raise hand feature on there, and we can unmute you and you can ask your questions should you have any from the Blue Jeans platform.
Yeah, so realistically, at this time, Cindy, we do want to open it up. We want to go on to citizen comments. Is that correct? Or we want to continue to wait for questions?
I do have a question from Blue Jeans. Bear with me just one moment. The question is, shall we use our allowed 2020 rollover money as a starting point and then build on that number for our request if they receive money 20,000 in grant money for 2020 and only use 10,000, rolling over 10,000, our 2021 ask would be 10,000 to bring our 2021 grant balance in line with 2021. So I believe what they're trying to ask is if they hold back 10,000, is it in their favor to ask for an additional 10,000 to bring them to their grant balance that they essentially would need to ask for to fund their organization? It sounds like.
I would, I see John Troyer's on the line. I would like to get his thought first because since we're moving the money over and they have the year, I don't know if it necessarily matters if they ask for 10 or for 20. I think that we would want to know that, but I'd like to get John's thoughts on that as well from a legal standpoint.
Okay. Mr. Chairman, if you just joined in, so I didn't hear the conversation.
Perfect timing, John.
Yes.
So the question that came in is, if an organization has 10,000 left and their original request was 20 and they need 20 next year, should they use the 10,000 as a starting point and ask for only for 10, or if their real ask was 20 and would be 20, do they need to ask for 20? I just wanted to make from a legal standpoint, there's no gray area there. You're the one that has more knowledge on it than we do.
Yeah, you're fine to get there either way. And my concern is that we keep our eyes on people to get a single dip instead of a double dip as far as funding goes. And so if you take 10 from this year and 10 next year to get to 20, that's fine. Or if you just say, well, I'm going to let that 10 expire and I just want 20 in the next year. And I think that's a piece of how we want the applicants to ask for their funds. It's like, okay, I think I'm going to have 10,000 left over from this year. I'd like to use that 10 plus another 10. And I think when they present their requests is that we get them to frame it in that way. Is that, okay, I'm looking for 20 and here it is. And, if say there's an organization that got 20 allocated in this year and hasn't spent any of it, we've had some thoughts as do they even need to apply, because they can just use that 20 in the new year and that simplifies our process.
Right. That's great information, John. I appreciate that. And I'd like to bring it as a discussion point to the committee and get your thoughts, because my initial thought would be, if they've got 10 and they need another 10, I would think that starting at the 10,000 and asking for the additional 10 is probably the right thing to do. And my thought is also we just don't know what's going to be coming in terms of the level of accommodations funding. So if there are leftover funds, my thought would be is to use that as a starting point for the additional ask, but I'd really like to get the thought process of the entire committee on that as well.
If I think if it was almost stated as need for 2021 is X amount, let's say 20,000, then below that would be holdover from 2020 is 10,000. Then the ask for 2021 is 10,000. Something that was really simple and clear like that would be helpful, at least in my mind, for the review process, especially given the fact that we're going to have a lower total allocatable across the board, and psychologically I'd feel better turning down 100,000 than 200,000. So that's just my thought.
Good feedback. What's everyone else thinking?
I would agree, seeing that seeing both line items, the total request plus the rollover funds will make it easier on the eyes for figuring out how much funding is to be allocated for 2021 for the request of the applicant.
I completely agree with Rich and Tom, and I mean Rich and Stephen. I think the cleaner we keep it to roll over in terms of when we review the applications, the easiest it'll be for us to know what's allocated, because some people are rolling over their funds. Some people have used some and not used all, but we need to know what they want to use, and there's probably going to be less funds needed for 2021 as a result of that, because a lot of people haven't used their funds and are going to carry over. So the cleaner, if we can create just a simple, visible process in the application to state that, whether it's a table of 2019 to 2020 to 2021 needs, I think that would be a simple way for us to look at it when we review.
Yeah, and I would ask, rather than modify the application as the form, if we could do an addendum to those who had a previous, allocation, that they show what funds they plan on rolling over, whether they were going to roll them over, whether they let them lapse or otherwise, so that we could have that, we have an apples to apples type of a situation when we move to the allocation in October, because it does appear that based on the figures we got last month, that there was about $1.6 million of funds that had not been spent from this last grant allocation, and that might be available for next year or the coming calendar year.
Right. Well, good. So I think that with that discussion, Zendaya, I would say that again the committee is in agreement that we would, and especially in that applicant's situation, we would ask that they define the amount that they have not used, define the additional request that they need, so that we can take that into consideration as we're going through the application process. Does that accurately reflect what we were just talking about as a committee?
Yes, it does.
Yes.
Okay. All right, Zendaya, I can see some more people are chatting in, so you can ask the next question.
SCPRT held 15% of grant awards in reserve until they saw final amounts. Is the town planning on doing the same with awards? Example, a $10,000 award have access to $8,500 and $1,500 is held in reserve until final budget from legislature.
That is not a question that I would even remotely think that I have the knowledge to answer. So Zendaya, I would direct to you who on this call from staff would be able to answer that question.
Mr. Chairman, we project, we go on 3 quarters of actual numbers and 1 quarter of projection, and so that fourth quarter is usually a lower quarter, so our projection is the one of the lowest ones. And so our expectation is that by the time the awards are made, then these are granting actual dollars. So our expectation is that we would not need to withhold anything. And that's just as long as my projections are within reason, and you'll have an opportunity to review that. we're not projecting too far ahead, and so I feel comfortable that we won't need to do this.
And John, to clarify, remind me, that is how you typically have done that, correct?
Yes. Yes,
Okay.
that we go on 3/4 of actual, and then we project the fourth quarter, and the fourth quarter being October, November, December, and so those are not high collection months.
Okay, great.
And just an FYI, the town, we're putting together our grant request, and just knowing that our expectations that collections are down, the town is reducing its grant request for the new year. So in trying to help the cause.
Okay, great.
Mr. Chairman, in previous conversations that we had, a previous meeting back in July, I discussed with you all that I would be providing a year-to-date for the 2020 applicants as far as where they stand as of close of business on September 30th. I am still going to provide that information in hopes that at our October 1st meeting, you all have a year-to-date number as far as what applicants that were awarded in 2020, where they are, and in hopes of giving you, going through the hearing process, that information to allow you to make the awardings as you see fit. So that's on the table, that is in the works, that is something that, will be happening on our side.
Great. Thank you for that reminder, and also thank you for that reminder for both the public and for the applicants. I think that'll be a great way to have them be able to discuss the impact of COVID, and that gives us a good starting block of what we understand, as Jim was saying before, what funds could possibly be left over. So I think that'll be a good indicator for us and a good starting place. What other questions have come in, Zendaya?
Let's see.
Want to unmute the phone just in case?
Okay. So this applicant is reconfirming that. So this is actually the Boys and Girls Club, the pedal HHI event. So he would like to reconfirm our discussion regarding HHI pedal. It was originally scheduled for November 21st, 2020. They are requesting a rollover of their 2020 grant in the amount of $22,000 to 2021. They have rescheduled their 2020 event to now take place on May 2nd, 2021. It is their understanding that they do not have to complete a 2021 ATEX application. And I am going to, so as staff, if you are rolling over your funds into 2021 and you do not need any additional funds, you do not need to apply. This can be the year that you take off, should you need to, if that's your organization's decision, and apply in 2022. So as staff, we do not need any documentation from you stating that you will not apply. You just don't have to put in an application. Is that the understanding of the committee? Do you need any documentation that anyone will or will not apply?
I'd like to have a letter from the organization stating what their intention is, so we know when we're looking at the numbers, what's going on with that.
I agree. I agree with Jim. If they've applied in the past, but they're just not going to apply this year, but moving forward they will again, I think we just kind of need we're remaining status quo, but let's not lose them in the pipeline. Let's just keep them, either a letter or a document for us to review that they just have not applied for this year.
Okay, I will get with legal and see what we can do as far as providing you that information, and then I'll send an email back to you all, and then we'll go from there. And then I'll reach out to the applicants if anything else is needed further.
Yeah, and what I would say on that, Zendaya, and I was going to do the same thing, I was going to defer directly to John on that anyway. So you guys just talk on the backside of that, and because I know there's no additional documentation that's needed. Um, I think that that would be fine, and I would say that that is, at the discretion of the applicants. We would like to have that, but in the same sense, I don't want to create additional work for the staff in the sense of having to go down every single person that's applied. Um, I think that would be on them, but I think that it would be nice to understand that they are going to roll that over like that in that instance. That event is going to happen. They're going to use their money. We're not going to see them again until next fall.
Okay. I will get with legal and see how we want to handle that. I know it's not something that we have asked in the past, so I just want to, do things the correct way. But I will get back.
Oh,
We
good.
will work on that on the backside.
Okay. Just wanted to see if I don't see any other questions in Blue Jeans. What about anything coming in from Facebook, Zendaya?
I do not see anything from Facebook currently. There is one caller that is actually on the line, and I'm not sure if they had a question or if they were just listening. We have unmuted you if you needed to speak or ask a question. The telephone caller, that is. Seeing none, I will bring it back to the committee.
Thank you so much. Alrighty. Going to just give it another minute or two and see if any other questions come in through the chat. And then we'll just go ahead and roll on. And I wanted to double check with you, Zendaya. Citizens' comments are just comments from the public, correct? Not about the questions, but they're just comments, correct?
That is correct. However, we did not have anyone actually sign up to speak today. So we don't have any citizens' comments that, technically signed up to speak regarding other general items.
Alrighty. I'm seeing another one come in. The question looks like, please clarify, our 2021 ask should not be in excess of our 2020 award.
I will defer that to you all.
I wouldn't. Our 2021, if it's a new application, it can be in excess of what we awarded in 2020. It's, obviously they have to show the need, but is that the understanding that everyone else on the committee has? Okay.
That's my understanding, Chairman. Yes.
Okay. So to answer your question there in the chat, yes, your 2021 ask can be more than your 2020 award. Obviously, you would just need to make your case in your application. Give it another minute or two. You are most welcome. Alrighty. Were there any other questions or comments from the committee members? I think that we're all pretty much of the same understanding. We'll get, and again, this is more for the general public. Briefly, is we'll get those September 30th breakdowns of usage. Zendaya and town staff will get that as we start the application process. So as a committee, we'll know where we stand from that standpoint of what the spend is, what's left. Again, we've discussed the fact that we are going to, if you're going to roll that money over, Zendaya and staff will communicate after they have had a discussion on the backside about either having a letter or not having a letter to let us know that they won't be applying. And then, from there, we did discuss as well, probably the most effective place to talk about COVID and its impact is going to be in the executive summary to make it easy for us as a committee to understand that. And as an aside, also using the 2019 numbers if their 2020 event was impacted, canceled, so that we can use that as our data. We also did talk about if they have money they're rolling over and they are applying, that we would request they probably use that as a starting point for their ask. You know, again, the $20,000 need and the $10,000 left over would be a $10,000 ask. So just in summarizing that, is there anything that I'm leaving out from a committee member that you guys see, or from Zendaya?
No, Mr. Chairman.
Okay.
Mr.
Zendaya?
Chair,
Yes, ma'am.
I was just letting you know that we as staff are going to unmute everyone that is watching on Blue Jeans, that is logged into Blue Jeans, just in the off chance that they aren't able to use the chat feature or don't have the raise hand feature as well. So if you have any questions, please speak up. Okay, Mr. Chairman, it does not seem that anyone has any further questions. So I will give the meeting back to you.
Well, great. And as you said, the only thing really left on our agenda was citizens' comments, and we had none submitted by noon. So in seeing that, I'll look for a motion to adjourn.
Mr. Chairman, I move to adjourn.
Okay.
I second Mr. Fluker's motion.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. Thank you so much. For the record, 9:37 a.m. Zendaya. Thank you, everyone. You have a wonderful day.
Thank you.
Thanks, Drew.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, guys.
Have a great day,
Mr. Chairman.
everyone.